Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Michael and Laura show with Laura J. and Michael Seegers, who will be teaching about the violet flame. Michael, please give those who are new to the violet flame an introduction to it and take it from here.
Thank you, Laura. We have come quite a ways to get to this point. We first introduced the Ascended Masters and we talked about Saint Germain. And we went into the chart of the Divine Self, or sometimes called the chart of the I Am Presence. That led us into the science of the spoken word. And so from the science of the spoken word, we finished off after about 40 minutes. I thought that was enough for that segment. We were talking about the distinction between prayer and decree. In the Old Testament, in the book of Job, we read, "Thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be established unto thee." And it's a very strong indicator of how powerful a decree is. We also find in the Psalms of David, in one of the Psalms, David is repeating more than 50 times, "Dear Lord, teach me your decrees." I found that very fascinating that David wanted to know the Lord's decrees. So we understand that the decree is the most powerful use of the spoken word. It is a command that becomes the law. So when it's spoken by the I Am Presence, who is the speaker of the word, it becomes the law in the physical plane. We also touched upon the name of God is holy. The name of God is I Am. And so I Am that I Am was revealed by Moses. And when you read book 3 from the Saint Germain Foundation, Discourses on the I Am, there are 33 separate lectures that Saint Germain gave specifically about the name I Am and the power of using that name. And so now we're going to go into experience the violet flame for happiness, health, and wholeness. The violet flame is a spiritual flame that consumes your karma and heals your body, mind, and soul. Learn how to use it. And here we are tonight. We're going to learn how to use it. Where do you get this mystical commodity of violet flame? You can't buy it at the corner store. Many people like to visualize the violet flame while they're meditating. But the source of the violet flame is in the spiritual dimensions. And so we have to call it forth. We must invoke it using the science of the spoken word. When people ask me, what is the violet flame? It's very simply, it's a very spiritual energy. It's everything is energy. The violet flame is energy. And the energy from source, which we call the light of God, the energy coming from source, we describe as white light, is luminous self-intelligent substance. We discussed white light passing through a prism refracts into a rainbow. So we see that the colors of the rainbow are all components of the white light: red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, and violet. So at the violet end of the spectrum, we see the violet frequency. It's the same with physical light as it is with spiritual light. And so the masters would tell us that the violet ray is the 7th ray aspect of the light of the Holy Spirit. And when that ray comes down into matter, as we saw with the threefold flame in the secret chamber of the heart, it bursts into a flame. And so the activity of the violet flame, of the violet ray, when it focuses and intensifies, it bursts into a flame. And I'm going to now read for you directly what Saint Germain has to say about it. He wants us to understand that it's actually a physical flame as well as the spiritual flame. The violet flame is a physical flame. And what do I mean when I say this? I say the violet flame is closest in vibratory action of all of the rays to this earth substance, to these chemical elements, and corresponds to all that you see in matter. And therefore, the violet flame can combine with any molecule or molecular structure, any particle of matter known or unknown, and any wave or particle of light electrons, or electricity. Thus, the violet flame is the supreme antidote for food poisoning, chemical waste, toxins, pollution of drugs in the body. The violet flame is an elixir that you drink and imbibe like water, like the purest juice of the fruit of the harvest of the elementals' consciousness. That's a very interesting sentence. So we call it forth using the science of the spoken word. We invoke the violet flame, and as it comes into the physical plane, we actually absorb it through the pores in our skin, through our lungs. We inhale it, we imbibe it like water. And when Saint Germain talks about the purest juice of the fruit of the harvest of the elementals' consciousness, this is quite a concept he's expressing. The elementals are the beings that sustain the entire physical plane. And we talk about the elemental kingdoms, fire, air, water, and earth, which are four interpenetrating force fields that make up the physical plane, that make up the substance of our physical bodies. And the elementals, like all energy, have consciousness. And so Saint Germain is describing this violet flame as the most wonderful aspect of what the consciousness of the elementals can produce. It's like a fine wine. It's the harvest of the grapes, and the grapes produce the wine. The wine is the most pure essence of the grape that can be produced. And so violet flame is being described as the most pure essence of the consciousness of the elementals. And this would be the elementals of the fire, which are known as salamanders. Saint Germain continues, the violet flame is the supreme antidote for physical problems. Wherever chelas gather, and this is a new word for many people, chelas are simply students of the masters. Wherever chelas gather to give the violet flame, there you notice immediately an improvement in physical conditions. And there's another important distinction here. Notice Saint Germain says that we gather to give the violet flame. He doesn't say we gather to receive the violet flame. We don't gather to say the violet flame. We don't gather to do the violet flame. We actually gather to give the violet flame. Because as we are invoking light and it's passing through our chakras and being expressed out into the world, we are actually giving it to the world. And wherever we gather to give the violet flame, we notice immediately an improvement in physical conditions. Whether organic or inorganic matter, there is a disintegration spiral that works in the buildings, in the land, in the sea, and in the bodies, which can best be counteracted by the violet flame. Now, this is a fact of life in the physical plane. We understand that nothing is permanent. We understand erosion. Things wear out. And on a spiritual level, the cause of all that is a disintegration spiral that is working through the entire physical kingdom. The violet flame turns around the downward spiral of the chakras and the negative energy. It is forever the power of conversion. Conversion means to turn around. The violet flame is the buoyant joy of the Holy Ghost that turns around spirits and minds and souls and emotions. That really sounds like good medicine. When the violet flame is invoked by unascended man, it envelops each atom of his being individually. Instantaneously, a polarity is set up between the nucleus of the atom, which being matter, assumes the negative pole, and the white fire core of the flame, which being spirit, assumes the positive pole. Now, Saint Germain is going into the actual physics of the activity of the violet flame on the physical plane. And this is an important distinction because many people think that it's only a spiritual energy, and it's not true. And if you have not studied physics, if you didn't have that opportunity in high school, and you're not familiar with the structure of the atom, we're going to show you a little bit later on a video which gives you an idea of how science understands that activity. And Saint Germain is saying there is a polarity, a positive and a negative. And the atom, which is in physical existence, is mater. It's the physical plane, it's the negative aspect. and spirit is always the positive aspect. And the dual action of the light in the nucleus of the atom and the light in the enveloping violet flame establishes an oscillation that causes the untransmuted densities to be dislodged from between electrons. Now, this is a really fascinating concept. In the core of the atom, we have a nucleus. We have a positive charge. And let's just say, to keep it simple, that we're going to describe that as a baseball, the shape of a baseball. It's little round electrical charge, and it's positive. It's like a magnet's got a positive negative pole on it. The core of the atom has got this little positive nucleus. And then surrounding that is the field of the electrons, which are like little ping pong balls floating around the nucleus at a very high speed. And science will tell you that in between the nucleus and the electrons, which are negative, which are floating around, it's all empty space. And these particles are so tiny that if you blew them up to be, so the nucleus was actually the size of a baseball, the electrons floating around it would be half a mile away, just empty space. And so I used to say to my physics teacher, if it's just empty space, why does it feel solid? Why is it you cannot walk through a wall? And then I would get all kinds of explanations that didn't make a lot of sense. It had to do with the rate of vibration, and they really couldn't explain it. But here, Saint Germain gives you the answer to why you cannot walk through a wall. He says, and I'll highlight the words right here, untransmuted densities. Saint Germain is telling us that in between the core of the atom and the electrons floating around the outside, in between is not empty space. It's filled with untransmuted density. It is actually the substance of karma, and it's actually as dense as concrete. Now, to somebody like Saint Germain or Jesus or any ascended master, walking through a wall is no big deal because they can raise their vibrational frequency to the point where the wall is irrelevant. And what we're being told here is that we can actually accomplish the same thing with the use of the violet flame. Indeed, all the miracles that were performed by Jesus were done with the use of the violet flame. So the flame establishes an oscillation, that just means the vibration, that causes all this untransmuted density to be dislodged from between the electrons. And as this substance is dislodged, it's loosened at non-physical or metaphysical dimensions of matter, and the electrons now, not being so encased in concrete, begin to vibrate with an increased amount of energy. And that begins to throw this untransmuted density, this misqualified substance, into the violet flame. On contact with this fiery essence of freedom's flame, the misqualified energy is transmuted and God's energy is restored to its native purity. Now, here's a very, very interesting point. Restored to its native purity. When Earth was created, matter was not so dense. The Earth, the ground that man walked upon, was actually transparent, and it was almost not physical. It was vibrating on such a fine, refined frequency level. And it became dense through the accumulation of karma and the accumulation of error and the energy residue of all the patterns of error that were imposed upon the entire planetary platform. Continuing on, relieved of the patterns of imperfection and restored to the plus-minus balance of Alpha and Omega, this energy of the Holy Spirit is returned to the individual's causal body, where it is stored until he elects to use it once again to bring forth the noble work of the Christ on earth as it is in heaven. So this energy that is locked in patterns of imperfection, that is the untransmuted density of substance that modern science cannot see or recognize yet, but which makes everything appear physically solid and unable to pass through. This energy is raised in vibration, it's purified and transmuted by the violet flame, it's restored to its native purity, so it becomes like energy was originally in the beginning before error was imprinted upon it. And in that condition, purified and perfected, it's raised into the causal body, which we showed in the chart of the ion presence. It's those spheres of light surrounding the ion presence. The energy is raised into the causal body and stored there so it can be drawn upon at some time in the future when you need it. This is the best activity of the description of the violet flame that I can give you. This is directly from Saint Germain, how he describes it. What an extraordinary gift. Everything the violet flame touches, it raises the vibration of, it purifies it, it restores it to its natural, pristine purity. And that could be physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, karma. Absolutely everything is transmuted and transformed and purified when it comes into contact with the violet flame. It is powerful beyond our mortal understanding. It is described as the highest gift of God to the universe. And the Son Master Amoria says, those who think that the past cannot be changed have not reckoned with the violet flame. Because when karma gets transmuted, there are aspects of karma that need to be touched upon, and they're called cause, effect, record, and memory. And the violet flame cleans up karma, cause, effect, record, and memory so that it no longer exists. So that the condition that you find yourself in is the condition of pristine purity, such that the error never occurred. That's extraordinary. Now, I'm going to show you the title of the Violet Flame CD that we work with, Save the World with Violet Flame. What does that actually mean? Violet Flame blesses all of life. When you give Violet Flame invocations and decrees and prayers and mantras and sing Violet Flame songs, which is why we provide the CDs, so that you can learn the sound patterns, the rhythm patterns, the intonations, the words themselves, and join in with the voices of the people that produce the CDs, you then begin to magnify and amplify and distribute violet flame from your throat chakra, literally across the entire planetary body. Because the light flowing through you, if you think back to the chart of the I Am Presence, it's coming from source, it's flowing out your throat chakra, it's going out into the world, and it's not just the sound wave, it's the luminous self-intelligent substance that is being poured forth and literally spreads out to cover the entire planet. And everything it touches, it blesses, it purifies, it transmutes, it restores to its natural condition, its pristine purity. And so when we think about the words of Saint Germain, that it is the supreme antidote, and we think about the condition of this planet, we have air pollution, we have water pollution, we have land pollution, we have radioactivity, we have all kinds of things. And we have a world in distress. And no matter who you talk to, no matter what scientific discipline you approach it from, nobody has a solution for all of those problems. And the masters want us to know that this is the solution for all of those problems. Truly, the violet flame is the solution for all of those problems. And that's why our CDs are called Save the World with Violet Flame. 800 people gathered to record and produce these CDs. And one of the miracles of the use of the CDs is that even if you couldn't speak, if the only thing you could do was play the CD and let the sound go out through your speakers, there would be an activity of the violet flame released to the planet. And when you join and give the violet flame decrees and songs and mantras with the CDs, you get the amplified effect of the 800 people. It's much more powerful than sitting by yourself and doing it without the CD. So this is one of the tools that we provide that's very, very powerful. Now we're going to start with a very simple violet flame mantra. This is Saint Germain's mantra. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. Notice it begins with the words, I am. And from the I am discourses and from Moses, we learn the power in the words, I am. Everything that we say after I am comes into manifestation powerfully. And what we want to bring into manifestation is violet flame. We want that in our world. And so we say the words, I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. And we add rhythm and tone, and we accelerate the recitation of the words as we accelerate our consciousness into a higher frequency. And so it becomes, I am a being of violet fire, I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire, I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire, I am the purity God desires. And you can feel your body resonate with the production of the sound. And it doesn't take long that you begin to feel a bit lighter as the violet flame activity comes into your world. Now, we notice that the girl sitting here is surrounded in violet flame, and we provide this image as a visualization tool, because what you put your attention upon, what you gaze upon, is where your energy flows. And people who are a little bit familiar with the third eye chakra understand that clairvoyance operates through the third eye. When your third eye begins to open, you can see into other dimensions, other frequency ranges. But what very few students have ever been told is that the third eye, in part of its functioning, is not just an organ of perception, it is an organ of projection. So the image that you hold in your mind is projected out through the third eye chakra into the world. And so that when you consciously employ the technique of visualization, and you visualize the violet flame going forth around yourself and out into the world, you actually make that activity stronger by a large degree. It's often said by the masters that visualization can be up to 75% of that activity. So very, very powerful. And that's why we create the visualization tools as well as the audio recordings, so that now you're working with more than one chakra. I've often said that the science of the spoken word is a 7-dimensional experience. When you learn to project the rays through all 7 chakras, you're operating on 7 different planes. So it becomes a 7-dimensional experience. But initially, we start with the throat and the third eye, the sound wave, and the visualization. Now, you can also use the violet flame in a more concentrated action with the individual chakras. And so we have mantras specifically designed to work with the chakras, and we use the violet flame chakra by chakra and purify and cleanse those chakras. And there's a lot of new age type of stuff going around these days where people talk about chakra balancing, and they have all sorts of activities that they engage in, which much of I've examined it, and I find it to be absolute nonsense. Sometimes people like to place crystals over their chakras and do some breathing exercises, and that's all wonderful. But I can tell you that none of it comes close to what the violet flame can do. If you do violet flame mantras to purify and accelerate your chakras, it will be 100 or 1,000 times more powerful than a lot of the other stuff people are doing. Most people have no idea how to work with the violet flame. And this is an area that we go into in a lot of detail. We give you the specific Sanskrit mantras, the sound syllables that you need to produce to work with each chakra. We bring in the third eye activity so that you're visualizing it properly, and you envelop each chakra in violet flame as you go. And then we have another visual image for you. This is when we talk about the tube of light, which will be the next video that we produce. This is how you want to see yourself standing underneath your I am presence. You see the threefold flame in the heart, and you see violet flame radiating out from that heart chakra, and you see yourself standing in a torrent of violet flame pouring down upon you. So visualization is key. We have many different visualization tools that we use. We want to give you Saint Germain's formula. It's very, very simple. 4 points to remember. The empowerment of I am that I am. The power of the spoken word, violet transmuting flame, and direct the light through visualization. And after that, the formula is try. If you don't try it, you're not going to know it. Saint Germain uses the word try as an acronym. He says the letters TRY stand for Theos plus rule plus you. Theos is Latin for God. The rule is the law, and you is where the activity takes place. God's law, operating through you, brings the violet flame into the world, and you'll never know until you try. Now, I have for you a visualization as a video, and you can join me. We're going to give the violet flame mantra, and we're going to do this for a few minutes while the video is playing, and so you get to use the visualization. And this is how we work with the violet flame. This is how we teach everybody from day one. It's the easiest way to do it. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires.
I am a being of violet fire, I am the purity God desires. I missed one. I caught up.
It's that simple.
It is. And so powerful. I can even feel the heat as I sit here and we do it. It brings up so much and it transmutes, and we energetic beings feel something. What do you feel when you do it?
I've become so accustomed to it that it's almost unnoticeable. It's just, I'm naturally vibrating on a much higher frequency. I've been very surprised with other individuals when they've never been exposed to it, and watch when they say, I'm a being of violet fire, the very first time, and all of a sudden get a charge of energy that's tangible and physical, and you can see them almost jump, and they're just in shock by what they experience. So it's different for everybody. But yeah, it can be very electrifying. And I've had those moments when it has been absolutely electrifying. And we have one more video to share with you, and this is the atomic visualization. We're going to show the activity at the atomic level, and this is the way modern science would understand it if they were looking at it. So you see, as I was describing the atom, this is the white fire core, the nucleus of the atom, and these are the electrons spinning around the atom. And now we see the violet flame enveloping the atom. And we see the untransmuted density right here. These little things are the untransmuted density Saint Germain would talk about. They're going to get cleaned up. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I'm a being of Anandamar, I am the beauty God desire. I'm a being of Anandamar, I am the beauty God desire. I'm a being of Anandamar, I am the beauty God desire. I'm a being of Anandamar, I am the beauty God desire. I'm a being of Anandamar, I am the beauty God desire. I'm a being of Anandamar, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire. I'm being a man of man, I am the beauty God desire.
I got way too fast for me to keep up.
And people often ask the question, why do you go so fast? And so there's a couple of interesting things I would point out about that. When you learn typing, you're very slow, one finger at a time. But when you get hired as a typist, you're expected to be able to type, what, 60, 80, 100 words a minute? And it's the most natural thing. It flows at a much higher speed. So it's no different with this. You begin slowly and you are articulating syllables at the speed that you're accustomed to speaking, but you're capable of articulating syllables much more rapidly. And what actually occurs is the light coming down from the I am presence will accelerate and intensify so that as you articulate the syllables more rapidly, the light will flow through you more intensely. And you will get to a point where your chakras actually begin to spin. They will open up like flowers and they will begin to spin. And I've had my chakras spinning. I've seen them spinning. And I've watched light being emitted from them, literally with the power of explosive fireworks. And that's extraordinary. There's another phenomenon that many students experience after they've gained some proficiency with this. And they will all tell you the same thing, that one day they are sitting decreeing and suddenly they are speaking faster than they thought physically possible. And they can't believe they didn't sprain their tongue. They didn't trip over their tongue. They didn't bite their tongue. And the words flowed at an unbelievable pace. And in that moment, they understood that they were not the speaker of the word. They understood that they were not even operating the physical vehicle. The lips, the tongue, the movement of the mouth, the jaw, all that muscular activity was taken over by the I am presence. And you will discover you can articulate syllables at the rate of 10 or 12 syllables per second, like it's the most natural thing. I've been up to 18 syllables per second. And you get an acceleration of consciousness, because in order to speak quickly, you must be able to think quickly. Your consciousness will accelerate into much higher frequency, much higher dimension, and you will have a completely different awareness. Your experience will be transformed in that. So it's not because we're in a hurry, we want to do it quickly. There's a science behind this. And as we gain proficiency, it just unfolds naturally. I think we're probably at a good point to stop for this section. I will do the tube of light in our next presentation. I think we've covered the basics of the violet flame very nicely here. And as always, Laura, I'm just grateful to you for helping me do this.
My absolute pleasure. And thank you for all that you have done, as always, to be able to share all of this material in such a fluid and understandable way. And to anyone who is watching the replay of this message who has questions or comments, please post them below the video so that Michael and I are able to understand what you need, where you're struggling, where you are working, what's working for you, where you could use some help, because that's ultimately what these tools are designed for, to give you access to tools and then to really create a dialogue that allows us to be able to help you in your journey in becoming the ascended master that all of us have come to planet Earth to do in this lifetime.
And by all means, everybody around the world is invited to become involved with what we do. We had somebody put in the comments last week that he wanted me to come speak for his group, and we've now made contact by email. Anybody can just go to our website, Shambhala Temple of Light, fill out a contact request. I'll get that immediately, and we'll develop a conversation. We have classes that we broadcast on Saturday night that are specifically designed for beginners starting January 2nd. Anybody can join that wants to. Just reach out to us, and we'll be back and talk to you and get you what you need.
Absolutely. Because truly you matter, and you were accounted for before you got here. You're one of the players on the field, and all of us are better when we are connected and have access to people who have climbed the mountain of ascension a bit further and are able to come back and offer some insights as to what's coming next. So this tool is going to be invaluable if it's new to you. Obviously, if you trip up and stumble along the way, as you heard me do too through this, judge yourself not and recognize you can only do better when you try.
Perfect.
Have a great night, guys. Episode 6. We'll see you in the next one very soon of the Michael and Laura Show. Thank you.
Thank you.